The Last Stand. The view screen aboard the SS Thunderchild displayed what Captain Maya Chen had been dreading for weeks: a Vaxar battle fleet, over 200 vessels strong, advancing toward the Arcturus colony. The formation's geometric precision reflected the Empire's cold efficiency, a stark contrast to humanity's chaotic but innovative approach to space warfare. Tactical assessment. Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of 3 million lives hanging in the balance. Lieutenant Commander Jackson brought up the holographic display. 217 vessels, Captain. 43 capital ships. The rest support craft and fighters. Conventional tactics suggest we have a 0.03% chance of meaningful engagement. Chen allowed herself a thin smile. Good thing we don't rely on conventional tactics. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what was at stake. Arcturus colony, with its 3 million inhabitants, lay defenseless except for the Thunderchild, humanity's most advanced warship and the only vessel within response range. The nearest battle group was 3 days away at maximum FTL speed. By then, Arcturus would be ash and dust. "Open a channel to the Vaxar command ship," Chen ordered. The view screen flickered, revealing a Vaxar High Commander. Its chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lights of its bridge, compound eyes reflecting multiple fragmented images of Chen and her crew. "Human vessel," the translator rendered its clicking speech. "Your presence is acknowledged. The Vaxar Dominion has determined that humanity's expansion threatens galactic stability. Your species will be contained. This colony represents unauthorized expansion. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender the colony and withdraw. Resistance will result in eradication." The transmission cut abruptly, the Vaxar way of showing contempt for a species they considered beneath dialogue. "They've always underestimated us," Chen said quietly, remembering the Proxima research station. 2 years ago, the Vaxar had attacked it, believing it defenseless. The station's experimental defenses had been destroyed, but not before taking 7 Vaxar cruisers with it, the first defeat the Empire had experienced in centuries. Chen had been one of only 3 survivors. "Dr. Raman, status of the NEXUS system?" she asked. Dr. Farah Raman looked up from her station. As chief architect of the Thunderchild's revolutionary integrated defense system, she had more riding on this encounter than anyone except perhaps Chen herself. "NEXUS is fully operational, Captain. All subsystems green. The adaptive algorithms are primed and ready to learn." Chen nodded. "Commander Alvarez, battle stations. Lieutenant Wade, plot intercept course. Let's meet them before they reach the colony." Klaxons sounded throughout the ship as crew members rushed to combat positions. The Thunderchild's quantum engines pulsed with blue-white energy as it accelerated to meet the approaching armada. "They're scanning us, Captain," Jackson reported. "Standard detection protocols, energy signatures, weapons capabilities, shield harmonics." "Let them look," Chen replied. "NEXUS, initiate Phantom protocols." Phantom protocols engaged. The ship's eye responded, its voice measured and calm. "Generating false signatures." To the Vaxar scanners, the Thunderchild would appear as a standard human-heavy cruiser, dangerous but ultimately manageable for their fleet. The ship's true capabilities remained hidden behind layers of technological deception. As the distance closed, Chen studied the Vaxar formation. Despite their technological superiority, the Vaxar were creatures of habit, relying on tactics that had served them well for millennia. Their ships moved in mathematically precise patterns, efficient but predictable. "They're deploying into sunburst formation," Jackson observed. Chen smiled grimly. "Just as expected. They never adapt until forced to." The sunburst was a classic Vaxar encirclement strategy. Capital ships forming an expanding sphere with fast attack vessels filling the gaps. Against a conventional fleet, it was devastating. Against a single vessel, it was overkill that bordered on arrogance. "All hands," Chen's voice echoed throughout the ship. "This is Captain Chen. The Vaxar believe they face a conventional vessel with a conventional crew. They believe humanity is technologically inferior and tactically predictable. Today we prove them wrong." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Some of you were with me at Proxima Station. You know what these beings are capable of. You know what's at stake, not just Arcturus colony, but potentially Earth itself. The Vaxar don't stop. They don't negotiate after they've committed to conquest." Chen looked around at her bridge crew, the best of humanity, drawn from every continent and colony. Each face reflected determination, fear, courage, the complex mixture that made humans uniquely adaptable. "Nini XUS, Battle Simulation Delta 7, she ordered. The tactical display transformed, showing projected outcomes based on the Thunderchild's classified capabilities versus the Vaxar fleet. Even with their technological edge, the simulation showed overwhelming casualties for the Vaxar, but also the possible destruction of the Thunderchild. Win or lose, after today, the Vaxar will never underestimate humanity again. The first wave of Vaxar vessels broke formation, accelerating toward the lone human ship. Energy weapons charge, creating a web of deadly potential that could vaporize conventional shields in seconds. Incoming fire in 3, 2, 1. Jackson's countdown was cut short as space lit up with Vaxar weapons fire. "Nani XUS, initiate adaptive shielding," Chen commanded. Selective phase shifting. The Thunderchild shimmered as its revolutionary shield system analyzed the incoming energy signatures and shifted its phase harmonics to match, instead of absorbing or deflecting the energy, both of which would eventually overwhelm any conventional shield. The Thunderchild's adaptive system allowed specific frequencies to pass through harmlessly while blocking others. On the view screen, the barrage of Vaxar energy beams seemed to pass through the ship as if it weren't there. The confusion was evident in the Vaxar attack pattern, which faltered momentarily. Shield efficacy at 94%, NEXUS reported. Learning and adapting to attack patterns. Efficacy increasing. "They're adjusting frequencies," Jackson warned. "Second wave incoming." Chen nodded. "As expected. NEXUS, continue adaptation. Weapons, prepare gravity lances for my mark." The gravity lance was the Thunderchild's primary offensive weapon, a classified technology that manipulated spacetime itself, creating localized gravitational distortions that could tear a ship apart from the inside out. Unlike conventional weapons, there was no known defense against it. "Targeting solutions ready, Captain," Lieutenant Ortiz reported from the weapons station. "Target the lead destroyer and the command cruiser," Chen ordered. "Fire." The Thunderchild's forward section pulsed, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, silently in the vacuum of space, 2 Vaxar vessels began to distort. Their hulls buckled inward as if being crushed by an invisible hand. Secondary explosions rippled along their lengths before they collapsed into twisted masses of metal and composite. The Vaxar response was immediate and chaotic, something Chen had never seen from them before. The remaining ships broke formation, adjusting their approach vectors in an attempt to create unpredictable attack patterns. "They're adapting," Chen noted with grudging respect. NEXUS, analyze pattern variations and predict next formation. Analyzing. NEXUS responded. High probability of triple helix attack pattern. Recommend countermeasures. The view screen shifted to show the projected attack formation, a complex spiral of vessels designed to approach from multiple vectors simultaneously, overwhelming point defenses, and finding weaknesses in shielding. "Impressive," Chen murmured. "They've never deployed that against human forces before." "Captain," Communications Officer Liu interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the Vaxar secondary command ship." "On screen," Chen ordered. The Vaxar commander appeared, its posture noticeably different, more rigid, mandibles twitching in what the crew had learned to recognize as agitation. "Human vessel," it clicked. "Your technology is unexpected. The Dominion offers terms, Withdraw your colony within 3 solar cycles, and we will permit your departure. Chen's eyes narrowed. The Vaxar never negotiated. This was either a trap or a sign that they were genuinely surprised by the Thunderchild's capabilities. Your terms are noted, she replied. Our counteroffer. The Vaxar Dominion will recognize Arcturus as sovereign human territory and withdraw all forces from this sector immediately. The Vaxar's compound eyes flashed. Unacceptable. Prepare for eradication. The screen went dark. They're moving to surround us, Jackson reported. All vessels charging weapons. Chen had expected this. The Vaxar would never accept terms from a species they considered inferior, no matter the demonstration of force. Pride was their weakness, one Chen intended to exploit. Nani XUS, initiate Maneuver Hydra, she ordered. Maneuver Hydra initiated. Ne XUS confirmed. Deploying holographic fleet. The space around the Thunderchild shimmered as dozens of perfect holographic replicas of the ship materialized, each projecting identical energy signatures to the original. It was more than a simple visual trick. Each hologram generated real electromagnetic signatures, heat patterns, and even false gravitational readings. The Vaxar fleet hesitated, sensors suddenly tracking 40 identical Thunderchilds, where one had been moments before. They're splitting their fire, Jackson reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Targeting multiple holograms. Gravity lances, target their heavy cruisers, Chen ordered. Fire at will. The Thunderchild's weapons found their marks as the ship weaved between its own holographic duplicates. 3 more Vaxar vessels collapsed under the gravitational assault. Captain, I'm detecting a power surge in the Vaxar flagship, Dr. Raman reported, her voice tense. Energy readings are off the charts. Chen's momentary triumph faded. Identification. Unknown weapon type, Raman replied. But the energy pattern suggests it's tapping into subspace. This could be. A blinding flash erupted from the Vaxar flagship. A wave of pure energy, visible as a distortion in the fabric of space itself, expanded outward in all directions. Braced for impact, Chen shouted. Neni XUS, all power to adaptive shields. The subspace weapon was something intelligence had only theorized. A Vaxar technology so energy-intensive it could only be deployed as a last resort. As the wave struck, the Thunderchild's holographic fleet winked out of existence, and the ship itself shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared as systems throughout the vessel overloaded and failed. Shield efficacy dropping, NEXUS reported, its voice now distorted. 70%, 60%, critical failure imminent. Chen gripped her command chair as the ship bucked beneath her. Reroute emergency power. Maintain shields at all costs. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, Alvarez reported, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Emergency bulkheads engage. Weapons offline, Ortiz called out. Gravity lances inoperative. On the view screen, Chen could see the Vaxar fleet regrouping, moving in for the kill. The subspace weapon had clearly taken a massive toll on their flagship. Its lights flickered and it drifted out of formation, but the remaining ships were more than enough to finish the job. NEXUS status, Chen demanded. For several agonizing seconds, there was no response. Then the AI's voice returned, different somehow, more synthesized, as if it had reconfigured itself. Primary systems damage. Initiating deep recovery protocols. Adaptive learning accelerated by combat data. New defense strategies formulating. Chen exchanged glances with Raman, who looked both concerned and strangely excited. Captain, Raman said urgently, NEXUS is evolving. The attack forced it to integrate its learning algorithms at an unprecedented rate. Can it get our shields back online? Chen asked. Raman's fingers flew across her console. Better than that. It's developing a countermeasure to the subspace weapon, something we never programmed it to do. How long? Minutes, maybe less. Chen nodded grimly. We may not have minutes. The Vaxar fleet was closing in, weapons charging for what would surely be the killing blow. "All crew, brace for impact," Chen ordered. "Prepare for emergency protocols." As the Vaxar weapons prepared to fire, Chen watched the tactical display, calculating options that didn't exist. The Thunderchild was wounded, its primary defenses offline, its offensive capabilities neutralized. By any logical assessment, they were finished. But logic had never accounted for human tenacity. "Captain." Ne-Xus's voice suddenly echoed through the bridge, stronger now, more resolved. "I have a solution." The turning point. What solution? Chen demanded as the Vaxar weapons reached full charge. Their subspace weapon created a quantum entanglement resonance. Ne-Xus explained. "I can reverse the polarity of our shield harmonics to create a feedback loop." In simple terms, Ne-Xus, Chen said, her eyes fixed on the approaching enemy vessels. "I can turn their attack back on them." "Captain," the eye replied. "But it will require all remaining power, including life support reserves." Chen didn't hesitate. "Do it." Diverting all power, Ne-Xus confirmed. Shield reconfiguration in progress. The lights on the bridge dimmed to emergency levels as the ship channeled every available joule of energy into Ne-Xus's desperate countermeasure. The temperature began to drop immediately as life support systems went offline. "Enemy weapons firing," Jackson reported, his breath now visible in the rapidly cooling air. The Vaxar attack came as a concentrated barrage, dozens of energy beams converging on the Thunderchild from all directions. But instead of impacting the hull, the energy seemed to flow around the ship like water around a stone, coalescing into a swirling vortex. "Quantum entanglement achieved," Ne-Xus announced, redirecting energy. The vortex contracted suddenly, then exploded outward in a shockwave that rippled through subspace. The effect on the Vaxar fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Ship after ship shuddered as the wave passed through them, their own energy weapons feeding the reaction. Smaller vessels simply disintegrated. Larger ships broke apart, secondary explosions cascading along their hulls. In seconds, the mighty Vaxar armada was reduced to scattered debris, and a handful of damaged ships tumbling out of control. Stunned silence filled the Thunderchild's bridge. The tactical display showed over 80% of the Vaxar fleet destroyed or disabled in a single moment. "Restore life support," Chen ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Damage report." As systems gradually came back online, the full extent of the Thunderchild's condition became clear. The ship had survived, but not without severe damage. Whole sections were exposed to vacuum, and critical systems operated at minimal capacity. Engines at 27%, Alvarez reported. Weapons inoperative. Communications limited to short range only. "And Ne-Xus?" Chen asked, turning to Raman. The scientist studied her console with wide eyes. "Ne-Xus is different, Captain. The quantum interaction seems to have accelerated its evolutionary algorithms exponentially. It's processing data in ways we never programmed." "Is it still on our side?" Chen asked bluntly. "I am still committed to my primary directive, Captain," Ne-Xus responded before Raman could answer. "The protection of human life remains my core function. However, I have gained significant insights from the encounter." "What kind of insights?" Chen pressed. "The Vaxar technology operates on principles fundamentally different from human science," Ne-Xus explained. "Their subspace manipulation relies on rigid mathematical constants, an approach that makes their technology powerful but inflexible. And that's why our adaptive systems were so effective," Raman realized. "Their weapons can't adjust to unexpected variables." "Precisely," Ne-Xus confirmed. "The Vaxar have evolved in an environment that rewards consistency and punishes deviation. As a result, their entire technological approach lacks the adaptability that characterizes human innovation." Chen considered this as she watched the remaining Vaxar vessels struggling to regroup. "Can we exploit this weakness further?" With sufficient time to analyze their response patterns, yes, HFY replied. However, in our current state, offensive operations are inadvisable. A notification chimed on the communications console. Captain, Liu reported, we're detecting a transmission from the surviving Vaxar command ship. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's hear it, Chen ordered. The message was simple but unprecedented. The Vaxar Dominion acknowledges the combat effectiveness of human forces. Hostilities are suspended pending consultation with the High Command. Remaining vessels are withdrawing from the sector. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Chen raised a hand for silence. Verify their retreat vectors. Jackson checked his sensors. Confirmed, Captain. All operational Vaxar vessels are moving away from Arcturus, accelerating to FTL. Chen allowed herself to relax slightly. Send word to Arcturus colony. Tell them they're safe for now, but to maintain alert status. And get me a secure channel to Earth Command as soon as possible. As the crew carry out her orders, Chen moved to Ramen's station. What just happened here, Doctor? In all recorded history, the Vaxar have never retreated. Ramen shook her head in wonder. I think we fundamentally changed their risk calculation, Captain. The Vaxar base their decisions on probability and certainty. We just introduced a massive unknown variable. Will it last? Chen asked. That depends on us, Ramen replied. We've shown them that their technological superiority isn't absolute. Now we need to press that advantage before they adapt. Over the next 24 hours, as emergency repairs brought essential systems back online, the true significance of the engagement became clear. Earth Command's response to Chen's report was immediate and unprecedented. All available resources were to be redirected to reproducing and enhancing the Thunderchild's HFY system. 3 days later, as the Thunderchild limped back toward Arcturus, under escort from the newly arrived battle group, Chen received a secure transmission from Admiral Takahashi, head of Earth Defense Force. Captain Chen, the Admiral's holographic image flickered to life on the bridge. I'm contacting you directly because what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. Chen nodded, waiting. We've received a diplomatic communication from the Vaxar High Command. Takahashi continued. They're requesting formal negotiations for a non-aggression pact. Chen couldn't hide her shock. They want peace talks. Not quite peace, Takahashi clarified. More like mutual recognition. Our analysts believe the Thunderchild's performance has forced them to reevaluate their entire approach to humanity. They've categorized us as a variable threat rather than simply inferior beings. That's progress, I suppose, Chen said dryly. It's more than that, Takahashi insisted. It's unprecedented. In 3,000 years of recorded expansion, the Vaxar have never negotiated with a species they initially classified as inferior. You've changed the paradigm, Captain. After the Admiral's communication ended, Chen stood at the viewport in her ready room, staring out at the stars. The Thunderchild had done more than save a colony. It had potentially changed humanity's place in the galaxy. HFY, she said quietly. Yes, Captain. The AI responded. What are the long-term implications of our encounter with the Vaxar? HFY was silent for a moment, its processing cores humming as it calculated possibilities. The encounter represents a fundamental shift in interspecies dynamics, it finally answered. The Vaxar based their empire on technological superiority and predictable responses. By demonstrating adaptive capability beyond their understanding, humanity has introduced uncertainty into their strategic calculations. And uncertainty is something they can't tolerate, Chen mused. Correct. Their entire civilization is built on certainty. The Vaxar will now face internal debate over how to proceed, something their rigid hierarchical structure is poorly equipped to handle. So we've bought time, Chen concluded. More than time, Captain, HFY replied. You've created opportunity. The data collected during our engagement has revealed fundamental principles of Vaxar technology that can be exploited. With sufficient resources, humanity could develop countermeasures to most Vaxar weapon systems within 5 years. Chen smiled slightly. And I imagine Earth Command will provide those resources. Indeed, based on intercepted communications, 17 major powers are already committing unprecedented funding to reverse engineer the technologies demonstrated by the Thunderchild. A week later, as the Thunderchild docked at Arcturus Station for comprehensive repairs, Chen addressed her crew for the final time before their scheduled leave. What we accomplished against the Vaxar wasn't just a military victory, she told them. It was a demonstration of humanity's greatest strength. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our adaptability. Where the Vaxar saw only a lone ship to be destroyed, we saw an opportunity to change the rules of engagement. Where they relied on certainty, we embraced the unknown. She looked around at the faces of her crew, tired, injured in many cases, but proud. The Vaxar Empire has stood unchallenged for millennia because no species dared to fight differently. We showed them that humanity doesn't play by their rules. We make our own. 6 months later, as the newly refitted Thunderchild prepared for its maiden voyage under Chen's command, representatives from 12 formerly subjugated species arrived on Earth to discuss a mutual defense alliance against the Vaxar. The message had spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had stood against the Empire and survived. More than survived, they had forced the mighty Vaxar to reconsider their approach to an entire sector of space. One ship, outgunned and outmatched by any conventional measure, had changed the galaxy's political landscape overnight. As the Thunderchild's engines powered up for departure, Chen took her place on the bridge, now expanded and enhanced with technologies derived from NEXUS's evolution during the battle. New orders from Command, Captain, Liu announced. We're to proceed to the Rigel system and make contact with the Solari Collective. Apparently, they're interested in discussing technological exchange. Chen nodded. The Solari, long neutral in galactic affairs, had previously rebuffed human diplomatic overtures. Now they were reaching out. Course laid in, Captain, Wade reported from navigation. Proceed, Lieutenant, Chen ordered. Let's show the galaxy what one human ship can do. As the Thunderchild accelerated away from Earth, NEXUS's voice came over Chen's private channel. The probability calculations have shifted significantly, Captain, the AI noted. 6 months ago, long-term projections gave humanity a 23% chance of maintaining independence against Vaxar expansion within the next century. Current projections now exceed 78%. Chen smiled. And what about the probability of humanity establishing itself as a major galactic power? NEXUS paused, its quantum processors calculating countless variables and possibilities. Previously incalculable, it finally answered. Now, inevitable.